You are a man. Shut the fuck up.
Nigga, do you got something you want to say?
Don't worry about me, I'm a god.
What is a concept? By definition, it's abstract. It's a thought or notion, something conceived in the mind. In Korean pop, however, the word concept takes on a role much bigger than the generic definition that Google provides you. A concept is a theme or style that helps connect the artist in question to the music. It's worth noting that K-pop is not the only industry to create conceptual albums. To my knowledge, many Western artists have tried their hand at it. Halsey, Chloe X Halle, Beyonce, Carolyn Polachek and Melanie Martinez are the first to come to mind, but rest assured there's many more. However, in K-pop a concept is deeply woven into the fabric of the industry, and while most fans don't notice, it could be the main selling point to a group's success. There are several ways concepts work in the K-pop industry. First being, group concept. A group's concept refers to a solid concept that will be consistent throughout comeback rotations. This helps the group's core message stay consistent even when exploring new genres. Red Velvet's concept is heavily inspired by fairy tales, the group's story being explored through sides labeled as Red and Velvet. Their red side is vibrant in sound and visual work, more aligned with the word cute, often to hide the sinister nature. Their velvet side is smooth and darker, borrowing elements from R&B and jazz to put forward a very unsettling picture. These sides can and do often cross, as seen with their Red Festival series. Luna also has a group concept revolving around space and more importantly the moon. The group's South Korean name translates to Girl of the Month, referencing each member being revealed in a month-by-month fashion, ending in the completion of 12 girls. Other groups who have an overarching concept are aespa, Billy, WJSN, GWSN, Dreamcatcher, Goo, Cherry Bullet, and the list goes on. The second example is a fleeting concept. A fleeting concept is when a group or soloist takes on a concept for a specific era. Examples of this are Twice's Signal, where the girls possess superpowers and are trying to seduce an alien schoolmate. Speaking of school, Stakes Stereotype has a K-drama school concept. Friend's Apple is a witch concept, and WJSN Chocum's Super Yelpers is a superhero, Sailor Moon-esque inspired concept. These are concepts for specific eras that oftentimes do not bleed into future comebacks. They're here for a good time, not a long time, would be its slogan. Fleeting concepts could help a group feel fresh and also bring new ideas and sounds to the table for said release. Fleeting concepts could also come with a negative side effect of inconsistency though, especially for groups who spend more than the average amount of time for each comeback. There is a way to avoid this though, with a third example of a concept, which refers to sound. For many groups, especially in this generation, instead of taking on an overarching concept, they settle on a concept set in sound. Subgenres are grouped together to describe a set style in music and visual work rather than any particular theme or encompassing story. There are thousands of concepts in K-pop, but the ones most known are girl crush, retro, cute, dark, space, dream pop, teen crush, and sexy. There's of course lesser known attempted ones. The first coming to mind is the forever unpopular quirky concept. Girl groups such as Blackpink, A-Pink, Oh My Girl, Pristin, Twice, Weki Meki, ITZY and much more follow this formula. Rather than tying themselves to any specific theme, the music itself is consistent enough to form a concept. Songs that fall under girl crush all tend to follow a similar formula, with of course each artist putting their own twist to it. Then there's also mixture concepts. I describe this as when the promotional work, teaser photos and music video have different concepts that all align into one. The first example of this that comes to mind is Red Velvet's The Rev Festival Day 2. We have a lot going on, the first being the overarching festival concept. Day 2 presents the girls as underwater space cowgirls, while the music video presents the scenario of a summer day ruined by the unexpected rain. The album itself carries a retro sound and therefore concept, but for Red Velvet would more accurately be described as Velvet first, Red second in sound. A lot of factors in play that all come together to make a harmonious theme. That's what a concept is for. It helps make a group feel complete, even if it's on a release-to-release basis. A group's concept could be its main key to success or its biggest detriment. Consistency in a concept doesn't always lead to satisfaction of the masses, and sometimes even the artists themselves. Twice as skewed concepts sparked debate upon not only their fandom and themselves but the K-pop community in general. By time BDZ and Yes or Yes came by, many were tired of their cute concept sound and Twice members eventually agreed. ITZY's self-love concept paired with Teen Crush was initially met with fanfare but boredom by naysayers who felt like every release was a little too one-note for the hype. This being said, aespa have found success with their cyber concept and Friends Innocent, schoolgirl concept is admired by the Korean public to this day. Do not be mistaken though, a concept switch is not exactly a cure-all for the scene fatigue that comes with concept consistency. ITZY's concept switch has been regarded as one of the worst seen so far, with every release being met with disappointment from casual listeners much more appreciative of their debut concept which they've since ditched. K-pop groups who often switch concepts do not fare well either, the most successful to my knowledge being Girls' Generation, G-Idol, Red Velvet, FX, Luna and a few others on a small list. Despite it being the next new tactic by K-pop companies to present a versatile group, it's met with very few results. What it boils down to is execution and purpose. First and foremost, was this an earned switch to begin with? While Weekly's recent comeback titled Vampira awarded the group its highest sales, many are still puzzled by the random concept switch and much prefer their old concept. Concept switches have to feel earned in order to be genuine. Sometimes, a concept does not need to be replaced at all but enhanced. Having the same concept for multiple releases can lead to projects feeling stale but with better execution with more interesting ideas at that, a concept can be repackaged without feeling like a rehash. The most successful attempt I've seen at this is Pink. I say all of this to stress the actual importance of what a concept stands for in the world of K-pop. It's what makes your group unique, clues in fans for what to expect in the future and builds an earned level of respect when executed creatively and or well. It's the seasoning to the meat, the music. So what happens when this element is missing? When a group's concept feels generic or stolen? Could success be attained when one of the key elements of a project lacks personal identity? The general answer would be yes, we've seen it happen before our eyes. The cold hard truth is, K-pop stans are more invested in the parasocial relationships and music far too much to even bother with visual integrity, which is fair. After all, most groups have no partake in their concept and almost all of it is crafted by their company, so who cares, right? Wrong. If we're going by this mindset, then dissecting any piece of K-pop would be pointless. The industry runs on a standard that everything must be crafted by said company perfectly to ensure the success of said group. From concepts, to mannerisms, to personalities and even birthdays, nothing is off limits from being molded into the picture-perfect title of someone's imagination. Why are we allowed to discuss music, especially in the context of accusations of plagiarism and inspired melodies, but art direction is regarded as pointless and nitpicking? Concepts are directly used for marketing in K-pop, therefore increasing popularity and profits for a group strictly by crafting an image. Without concepts, let alone overall art direction, a good majority of Korean acts would lose the charm that drew so many to them. Red Velvet's fairy tale cult-like concept alone has South Koreans feeling grateful, their comebacks being a much-needed breath of fresh air amongst the Kwangya disease that has overtaken every project in the company so far. Concepts are just as vital as music, even more so for me personally. My first question or thought to pose whenever an announcement is made for a comeback or debut is simply, what is the concept? As a self-taught graphic designer and imaginary art director in my head of 5 years, I will proudly admit to being more biased towards the artsy side of K-pop rather than the music. Don't get me wrong, I'm not completely delusional. I understand that my passion for this field is what drives my need to make it central in the discussions of K-pop itself, and well aware that the music will always be considered the meat of any project. I just wish for the concept to be at the forefront of discourse the way music, choreography, styling and other aspects are, so we wouldn't have arguments on whether or not critique of it is valid. All of this brings me to the debut of Sserafim, HYBE's new girl group featuring former IZ*ONE members Sakura and Shawan, additional minors and an alleged bully. Sonically, Sserafim is aiming for girl crush title-wise, causing many, including me, to raise an eyebrow. Granted, their name Sserafim, being a messy, confusing, scrambled version of I'm Fearless, was already hinting at a cutting-edge, daring sound and concept. This explanation falls flat though when the content is finally delivered. Think aespa, whose cyber concept with hyperpop origins and sound brought forth new ideas and themes into the mainstream, even amidst plagiarism scandals each release. While Fearless is the main character's soundtrack of any model's dreams as they walk down the runway, the music video and visuals seem less interested in trying to capture that feel oddly enough. The entire rollout I felt as if I was watching stock footage being thrown together. While it's not awful, trust and believe we've gotten a taste of what awful is with NINI'S. It's not something I see writing home about when speaking about 4th-gen debuts that define the generation. Sserafim decides to offer us generic confidence, wrapped too neatly in cookie-cutter car commercial visuals. What exactly is the difference between a Toyota commercial and Sserafim's debut? For a concept that relies so heavily on self-image, the group's content possesses none of it. The concept pictures couldn't feel more like stock photos if it had a fat watermark on them. Sserafim had the opportunity to redefine a concept for its generation, but instead I'm left wondering if both post-is-one groups are in competition to who could exhaust me further. Eva, while advertising themselves as a group who has what you want and stylistically has swung for the fences, has fallen flat with me twice in the same regards. Eva at the very least yearns to establish themselves with a certain look, but Sserafim seems comfortable in being as stereotypical as possible for a group who's fearless. I was much more pleased with the concept of their Days Korea photoshoot, and I think if they went more Tumblr artsy rather than Nike commercial for their next release, they could establish a unique image for themselves that won't leave me wondering if the group should actually be fearful. My final verdict on Sserafim is that I'm whelmed. I expected more from a group who has the backing of the new Big Four tycoon, possessing one of the industry's best at that, Min Hee-jin. I don't understand why the budget matches one of a B-level straight-to-DVD movie and why the ideas lack any thought behind them above an elementary understanding of adjectives. These past debuts have made it more clear to me that without steady and interesting concepts followed through with execution, this generation is doomed from burnout of the same two they keep rotating. I don't exactly agree with the model that most groups are following, interchanging concepts from era to era to showcase versatility that not everyone possesses, let alone no one asking for in certain cases. Neither do I want to fully champion for groups like aespa and NINI'S who have been caught multiple times with their hands in the cookie jar, cotton-picking conceptual ideas and reaping benefits of a visual identity that belongs to someone with less of a platform to showcase their work in all cases. Then again, I could never see myself on the other side of the spectrum with Sserafim, who chose to opt out of having anything meaningful altogether, the entire group's premise feeling something straight out of a low-budget Disney Channel original movie. I found myself wondering if it's possible to find a common ground when it comes to concepts. There are still many pitfalls when digging into the never-ending iceberg that is concepts inside the K-pop industry. For example, Luna's concept and lore was one of the most unique and ambitious projects in K-pop to date. They spent more than 15 albums before their debut, spinning together a complex story with carefully picked concepts that would convey each specific member's place in the larger world they're a part of. However, fast forward 5 years later and every release since the much beloved XX is met with hysteria and sometimes disappointment on whether or not Luna could capture the formula that brought a significant portion of their audience in. It's also worth noting that their company, Blockberry Creative, had disagreements with the group's original creative director who was responsible for said lore because of concerns that the project was hindering the group's possibility of success. Since his exit, there has been heated debate on whether or not Luna's story is moving forward, or are we simply receiving rehashings of information we have long learned from the original projects led by Jaden. Could Luna's tale be a warning sign that maybe having a concept is more of a double-edged sword than it is a stepping stone to success? If fans become too attached to a concept you've pioneered, could this leave them feeling alienated when you choose to abandon it for something more guaranteed of solid results? There's also another pitfall of companies jumping the shark to avoid their prior mistakes. Slowly coming to terms with the backlash they received for keeping Twice stuck in a dizzying cycle of cutesy concepts, Jive jumped the shark by immediately throwing ITZY, who debuted and were marketed as the face of Teen Crush, into a girl crush lane only 2 years into their group with releases like Wannabe, Not Shy, Mafia in the Morning and Loco. This decision has proved to be the final nail in NINI'S reputation, with discourse surrounding any comeback release being met with the same commentary regardless of if the quality of the song was better or worse than previous eras. It doesn't matter what ITZY releases moving forward, because of the terrible reputation of title tracks that were widely hated, a certain stigma has now begun to follow them sadly. Not to mention, Blackpink's success with Girl Crush title tracks has single-handedly brought on a wave of copycat music under this umbrella that the growing audience of listeners are beginning to become bored fault with. That's ultimately the downside to concepts in K-pop. Once it's popular, companies see this and try to cash in on the trend to maximize potential profit and fame for their groups. It leads to an oversaturation and therefore listener exhaustion. The news that another girl crush group is debuting now met with frowns opposed to 5 years ago when it was seen as a much more brave move by a company. Does this mean that the average K-pop enjoyer might actually be the issue here rather than the groups, concepts and industry itself? While it's true that we may be the common denominator, it's important to note that at the end of the day, the companies are the ones who have full control over the groups they are presenting. While it's justified to follow a trend in order to ensure that your group builds an audience, it's worth asking if participating in said trend will help establish your artist's core sound and look by time people have become bored with it. When a group presents a concept that's unique to themselves, it builds a niche audience regardless of what's in trend. Your group becomes timeless. I think the example of this currently is Stake, who found momentum with their youthful hooks and age-appropriate concepts that showcase the girls' potential and is digestible for the general public. SM Entertainment has been the best example of this in general though, managing to reinvent the wheel and put out something interesting for every generation of K-pop to enjoy thus far. However, just because they've presented new ideas does not mean that we shouldn't hold them accountable when it comes to the countless ones they've stolen and profited off of, with bare minimum credit after the crime was already done. A concept should be something decided on years in advance for certain groups, with multiple people partaking in on the project to ensure fresh new eyes can present fresh new ideas. Companies outsourcing rather than relying on in-house staff for every project is the easiest way to avoid plagiarism. Oversaturation could be avoided simply by building an artist's integrity visually and sonically, therefore having no need to participate in trends to cater to a wider audience. There is no need to test the waters that are already calm. If there isn't a demand for a fresh new look for a group, especially ones younger than 4 years, it's best not to fix something that isn't broken. Concepts in the Korean industry have given it a charm that has appealed to a wider audience outside its original target demographic. It's a brilliant marketing tool, one that has cemented certain artists with legendary statuses after what's typically a 7-year career. However, it has its learning curves and is nowhere near reaching perfection as the industry is changing and learning new tricks. Hopefully as more time passes, we continue to be introduced to unique concepts by art directors and companies who have honed their skills and molded a particular style for each artist that we can enjoy.
Who fuck is it?
You're a funny morals from hate.
It's over. That's it. Okay? That's all I gotta say.